Welcome, everyone, to the Success Elevated podcast. As always, I'm your host, Hayden Lee, and I am joined this week by my co-host, Katie Harris, founding partner here at Spot On Solutions. Katie, thanks for joining again.
Always happy to be here, Hayden.
Always a good time. Probably the favorite part of my week, that I get to sit down with Katie and we get to talk to some cool people. And this week is no different. Returning guest, which is always fun. We get to have some returning guests on here. Means they hopefully liked us enough the first time that they decided to come back. But
or we have something on them.
We've got something on them. Yeah, that's true. We've got some. We've blackmailed them into this conversation. Mike Balzano, group publisher with BNP Media. Mike, thanks again for coming on the podcast today.
Easiest decision of my life besides marrying Darlene. It was coming back on this podcast.
Say that. We know this about Darlene, Mike. She made you say that. We know how this works.
She's in the other room. She can't hear it, but I'm sure she. What I do make her do is watch. You're joking about we're doing far too many podcasts right now. I do make her watch mine on Thursday night. She just sits there. She's, "You make me watch this again?" Yeah, come on, it's fun. But we'll do that with this one too.
I love it.
Great to be back. Great to see both of you.
There hasn't been a lot of new TV shows lately, so it's like, hey, Darlene, let's watch me.
Let's watch the podcast.
What's this? I see on my YouTube app.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Mike, we really appreciate it. We had an awesome time talking last year a little bit about what we're going to be talking more about today, which is the experience, which is a cool trade show and one of the best trade shows, conferences, whatever you want to call it, in the restoration industry. And what's cool about this year, maybe a little bit different than it was last year, is you're the guy. You are kind of spearheading the event fully this year. Last year, you obviously were a part of it and involved, but this year it's kind of your kickoff to really, you're the person for the experience. And so I want to kind of start off maybe with that question. How does it feel to feel you are the man in charge this year? Does it feel different? Are you feeling a little bit more pressure? What's it been like this year prepping for the event?
Absolutely. I'm feeling a lot more pressure. Let's just be honest.
If you weren't, that'd be weird. I feel like if you weren't, that'd be a little weird. Yeah.
It's a piece of cake. No, it's not. This is a lot of work, but we're excited though. I remember when I first joined R&R a couple of years ago as publisher, one of the first things we did, and we talked about this last year, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. One of the first things that our ex-publisher, Sarah Harding, says, you got to meet this guy, Larry Cooper, because he runs these two events that are pretty important. And I got on a Zoom call like this. And that's when that call is when Larry said, hey, this is all started. So I haven't not known being something involved with the experience at all. Every second I've been with R&R is something going on with the experience. So we had a year head start learning, but now that, when we kind of officially took it over after Las Vegas, it was a little daunting, but I mean, I'm taking everybody's advice. I'm taking Larry Cooper's advice, and and let me also say, I'm not really. We have a team doing it. I know I'm kind of playing the role of Larry Cooper right now in this, but I mean, it's a big team trying to put this together. It's exciting and it's fun, and we're trying to do what worked best in the past, and trying to maybe see if we could get some new tweaks and help out along the way. Like our speakers, we're going to get to, like the young lady on our screen right now is going to be speaking this year, but I want to bury the lead, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Oh yeah. We've got to mention that.
Let me jump in here, Hayden, because you said something that I maybe didn't totally realize before. Was this in the works when you took over at R&R? You said that this was always like kind of happening. Was this part of the job day one for you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And I took over, and then I had to play the violin and play poor Mike. But so my publisher got promoted. I was the associate publisher for her, and I vacuumed into her old brands, including R&R. And that was not. So I had the Driller, Snips. We were launching another trade show, all this stuff. So I was like, no, we don't need any more events on Mr. Balzano's plate, if that's okay. But almost at one of the first meetings we had was with Larry, and that's all started. I mean, almost a week after I took this job. So it took about 9 months to negotiate and get everything done. And we didn't really close till after Las Vegas 2 years ago. So we had it in the back of our mind for a long time. And then quickly a year later, we took over. So this is where we're at. But it's exciting. And we can't wait to go. We can't wait to go to Chattanooga. We can't wait to go to Vegas and start the ball rolling again.
It's awesome.
Chattanooga, that is one place I have never been. So we're coming up on trade show season, and we're going a lot of different a lot of different places. Why Chattanooga?
This was not my decision, and I can't put words into his mouth, but I know that they were going to Chattanooga because the day before the event starts April 3rd to the 5th, but the day before we're doing a tours of Shaw Flooring, three of their major plants, which is only 20 minutes away from Chattanooga. And that is the 100% the reason they're going to Chattanooga. And it's exciting. You could get, and by the way, I don't want to promote too much, but you can go to our website, sign up for their experience. Then you can sign up.
You can promote. Go ahead, do it, Larry.
I don't want to do it the whole hour, or half hour. It's a little bit. Go to our website, rnrmagonline.com, sign up for the experience, and you could go to the Shaw tours. It's only $199. It's a good deal. Food, lunch, transportation. That's why we're in Chattanooga. And it seems like a nice town too. I'm looking forward to it.
That's cool. I love that that you've kind of looked at some ways to, again, I feel like that separates you guys as an event. Like, not only do you get this cool event, but hey, we're gonna go tour a cool facility not too far away, which I really love. As you were talking there, Mike, you mentioned that in preparation for the event, there was a lot of things you were like, hey, we're gonna stick to a lot of the things that makes our event great. We're also probably gonna make some tweaks along the way. Those tweaks, and that was something that, Katie and I, as we were, prepping for our podcast with you today, we were like, man, I wonder if Mike's noticed any kind of trends out there in the industry. Do you feel like have you noticed any trends, I guess, is probably the first question. And then second question, have those trends led you to maybe make some of those tweaks to the event? Like, are those tweaks keeping in mind, like, what's going on in the industry? Those are my couple questions. What do you think?
I think, well, I'll start from what I learned about the experience was it's all hands-on experience.
Yeah.
That's the key to the experience. The spring show always has an extra day of hands-on learning, whereas the fall Las Vegas event is 3 straight days of agenda. So we have the Restoration Pavilion, that's new, formerly called the Flood House, headed up by Lisa Lavender and Barry Costa, and the Cleaning Pavilion, and it's all just hands-on, and that's what we try to hammer. That's the stuff we want to make sure we keep doing, because that's why people come to it. The one thing, I don't know if this has affected our event yet, but the one thing I've noticed in this industry is insurance. It's just, especially living down in Florida now, it's so important. We were just at the Interconnect event in Austin last month, and I had a lot of talk about that. And not just, for restoration, think of it with the hurricanes and whatnot. This is something that has just become so important. Insurance companies leaving Florida, Texas, and California having their problems as well. And it's something that, you get a flood or your house burns down. It's, I can't overestimate how important that is to get control of that. That's what's changed in my mind in our industry in the last year, just keeping our eyes on that. And it's kind of a tiger by the tail. As far as the experience goes, we're going to have some speakers addressing that. And my goal this year was to get more of a wider breadth of speaker. The people we had were legends, and they were great speakers. Les Cunningham will be back, and Jeff Jones and people like that. I just said, you know what? Maybe we don't need to get them out. We need to get some extra people involved this year. And that's what we did with Katie. Chuck Violin's our keynote speaker. Jim Pemberton, legendary carpet man, is our other keynote speaker. And I think people, if they look at it and give it, say, well, it's the same, but a little different. And I think I don't know if I directly answered your question.
No, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. Seriously.
All right.
I love the additions of the speakers. I think that's awesome. And I love that trend of the insurance thing. It's something that I think we've even noticed with our clients here. It's always been important that restoration companies work well with insurances. Like, that's always been a thing, and it'll always be a thing. But recently I've had a couple clients, and one particularly in Florida, that's like, hey, we're building a website for them. And they're like, hey, I really want to make sure that we include on the homepage all of the logos of insurances that we work with, because it is so crucial down here. Because, every restoration company, every website that we build for restoration companies, it'll mention somewhere there that says, we work with all insurance, right? But he was very specific. He's like, no, I want not only to say that, I want to have the logos there so that people know you work with my insurance. And it was so crucial to him. He's like, there's some stuff going on here in Florida and the hurricane, everything happening. Like, we want people to feel rest assured that we work with their insurance. And so we were, our web developer was the other day adding, I think, he had like 50 some logos that we were adding in a carousel that was going to scroll across his website so that people could see all that. And that's a cool that you've noticed that trend and that you're like, hey, we've got to make sure we address this in some way, shape, or form at the experience. And I think that's what makes events like yours and other events, you know, so important, is like, hey, there's cool stuff going on in the industry, or there's a trend, or there's something happening with maybe TPAs or whatever, right? Like we want to be able to talk about those things at our event, which is so cool.
I couldn't agree more with what you said. I think that's brilliant, that decision. Because saying we work with all insurance, people are just trying to get a little skeptical of that. Well,
Right.
what do you mean by that? You know, and if you specifically list them out, because people are just leaving Florida, insurance companies are leaving Florida because they just leave it. People have paid them for 50 years and they're out of. So if I could veer over to R&R for just 1 second, we started our BNP. It was an initiative that we all start topical e-newsletters. We have a regular e-newsletter and a once a month on a specific topic. And I said that let's, you know what, we need to up our insurance game. It's becoming more important. We're not covering it as much as we should. Let's do that. We put one issue out last month, and it had the best analytics at BNP. There's about 60 brands, and the R&R one did the best. So it makes me pat myself on the back a smidge. Think, okay, maybe I am onto something.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think it's key to keep your eye on that from every vantage point.
Yeah. It's just, it's something, you know, that I feel like a lot of people don't understand about industry events. Is they're like, you know, what's the importance? Why would I go there? You know, other than hanging out with my team and going on vacation for a few days, you know? And I think something like the example that you just provided, I think is like a perfect way to describe, this is why you got to go. Because you're going to not only hear from some cool speakers, but also talk about stuff that's pertinent to your industry. So
I think, and a kumbaya, I do a lot of rah stuff like that. I think one thing, this is dangerous to say this, but I could say this during COVID. I think we could all agree. That's the scary part to say.
You're good.
That we need to be with people. Didn't we learn that? I mean, we want to be safe, but people were alone way too much. And these events, any event, not just the experience, getting out and seeing your friends and seeing your people is just important. Yeah. You know, I'm all for it. I've been working out of my house for 15 years, and I miss going to the office sometimes and seeing people and just shaking hands and whatnot. And I think all events bring that togetherness that is essential for human behavior, in my opinion. So I don't know. That was kind of.
I also think it's important. You named off a couple of my favorite people, a couple big names that you said right there that honestly people pay a lot of money to go sit in a room with Chuck Violan, Lisa Lavender. Like you pay a lot of money to go sit at their feet and get trained and be in the room with them. And those are a couple of people that you're going to get to go spend some time with.
Lisa's so funny. We decided I always wanted to put together an advisory committee for both these events, because again, I'm being honest. That's number one rule. I've been in this industry for 2 years. I know significantly more than I did 2 years ago. But I don't know what Lisa Lavender knows, or Barry Costa, or people like that. I'm not going to attempt to say I do. So let's get the experts to do this. And you know, Barry was going to do the flood house again. He said, you know, do you know Lisa? I go, yeah. She's a good friend of R&R. Lisa's great, and all the brands. And I gave her a call. I go, we'd like to see if you'd like to jump in on the flood house with Barry. And she goes, oh man, doing so much things and owning 3 companies and this and that. And the next day she called me with literally 17 questions. So she was all in. So like, perfect.
And that's how Lisa does it. Lisa does it all in. Right. She's the best. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about coming to our event, rest assured, all the not just that goofy guy that keeps going on podcasts, all the experts in the industry are doing this. It's going to be a good event. So I'm excited.
That's cool. Well, you know, I was gonna kind of pose it to Katie as well, because you know, Katie, you obviously go to a lot of events, and it's coming to that time of year where you're just seemingly every weekend you're at a new event, right? And so I was gonna kind of pose it to you, Katie. Like, what are some things that you feel like? And I'll probably come back to Mike with this same question, but what do you think restorers? What are some things restorers can do to get the most out of an event like this? Because you know, you're obviously, you know, you're not a restorer, but you attend a lot of these events, and you obviously do it as a vendor, because you know it's a way for us to maybe kind of grow our business, but you also do it because there's a lot of other cool opportunities. And so maybe speak to you personally, what are some things you feel like restorers could do to get the most out of the experience, for example?
Sure. I've seen, man, I've done this now, you know, for almost 13 years, and And I've seen a lot of restorers be really smart and intentional about how they go about trade shows and their trade show plan, really trade show strategy. I think there's some different things to keep in mind as you go about this. Who you choose to take with you to trade shows from your team, I think is really smart.
Good.
You know, deciding like, hey, who's going to come with me and who gets to spend time with the leaders on the road. Man, when you get people out of the office with you, that's some real crucial development time. And I think when people get to leave the office and go spend time, you know, with the owners, with the other leaders, and be exposed to see things in a different light, I think that can be a real game changer and real growth tool for your team. So I think as you look at it as like a growth mechanism for your team, I think that's a really smart way to use trade shows, right?
Big time.
That's one way. I think the other way is there's some really great keynotes and breakouts and trainings that happen at trade shows. So, you know, even though a lot of trade shows are in very cool places and it's tempting to go sit by the pool or go to the beach or drop out, man, the people that show up and go sit in the room and take the chance to learn, you're going back home a lot smarter and a lot more prepared. So I think when you invest and you go strategically thinking, okay, where am I going to go? Right. And you don't kind of willy-nilly wander, right? But you have a plan and are intentional about what I want to go get out of this trade show. What do I want my team to go get out of this trade show? Like, people are smart about that. I remember one time, it was Matt Hensley and Cleve Morton with Total Restoration out of Indianapolis. The clients for a really long time. They've now been bought out by Custom, and they were so smart about going into trade shows. They're still smart. I see them all the time at stuff, and that's exactly what they would do. Like, they had a plan when they went in, like, this is what we're here for. This is where we're going. And I love that. I thought it was so smart. They knew what they were going for, what they were looking for, what they were going to come back out of. And then I think it's really smart when you go that you spend some time to debrief, right? Like, hey, once you get on that plane and you come back home, I promise you are going to forget whatever like light bulb moments you had or great things you thought you learned. Like, they are for some reason going to vanish and disappear somewhere in the air. So take a few minutes and debrief, write them down, make a plan of action before you get back home so that stuff doesn't disappear.
It's awesome. Great recommendations.
Number
Mike,
one on my list.
Yeah,
I was gonna. I'm sorry. Thanks, Hayden. I'm sorry interrupting. It's plan ahead was the number one thing I wrote. What Katie jumped on, and it's true. I mean, everybody, all these events you have, it's all on the website. Everything's there. They all have apps which you could utilize and plan your week, so you make sure you don't miss the speakers you want to see. And also, when you see the speakers or exhibitors or attendees, ask questions. They're not gods. You know, they're up there. They want to promote themselves and they give information on. They'd love to hear from you on and off the stage. And if you could, the more you get to them. Then we go into what Katie said. Then make sure you debrief and come back and make sure you don't forget all that stuff you learned. But all these people are here for the attendees and the exhibitors, all these speakers and all these great legends.
That's a great point, Michael. Like, take advantage of like the vendors and the speakers. Like, those are people that you have access to at that event. So go pick their brains, go get information, go ask for their expertise, right? Because they're totally willing to give that stuff there, and not always in a not in a totally selling way. Like, they are there to add value, and you're going to be able to get a lot of value from speakers, presenters, business owners, other peers like that are there. That's the place to go get that.
A lot of shows, our events do that too. We don't have the expo hall hours are not going to be open when the sessions are, or the keynote. So to make sure there's no conflicting things going on, you just see the speaker or the keynote, have lunch, and come to the trade show. And I always found I have another event that has the trade shows open for 8-9 hours. And it's just, I don't know. I like this structure better, right? You could lock it up. These exhibitors could go see the sessions too. And I don't know, that's just me.
Yeah. And without fail, Hayden, like, you talk to restorers, any show ever, their networking with other restorers is the top takeaway. Like, they get, there is so much power in being able to network with other restorers, and what they learn from that and what those relationships are is just powerful.
Oh yeah. And I think, you know, and maybe this doesn't apply to everybody, but I feel like a lot of, it's hard to want to work with your competitors at times, right? Like it's hard to want to talk to Joe Restoration that's, 10 minutes down the road because they're a direct competitor to you. So I think it becomes easier to maybe talk to your competitors because they're not really, they're probably 2 states over when you go to yeah, exactly. Right. You're not in the same market. And so you can have conversations with your competitors at a trade show event like this. And you can network and be like, hey, how do you guys do this? Or how do you do that? Or what kind of equipment are you using? Because most likely you're never going to have a conversation with them again. You're never going to be competing over the same client or the same job, And so it's a great opportunity to be like, man, everyone tells me I should work with my competitors. I don't really want to talk to the guys that are just across the street from me, but I'll go to an event like this and, talk to my competitors, for lack of a better term, that aren't really,
they're peers.
They're your peers. Yeah. Like you're saying, like you're not worried about them because they're not in your market, and you can learn some really, really valuable information.
I've literally heard some of the best conversations happen and really friendships start when, restorers have met up like in my booth at events. They've been standing there and they've met for the first time, or I've introduced them and been like, hey, I think you guys have a lot in common. And they've just like struck up a conversation and started talking in that booth, and they've become friends, or they've shared stories or experiences. And I've heard some really cool friendships start that have been long lasting, like years, that have started on a trade show floor in my booth between two people that have stuff in common, that then start to really help each other build each other's businesses because they have things in common with each other. Yeah.
I told somebody earlier today on a podcast that you talked about, he was jokingly saying, why do you keep letting my competitors in to exhibit? I go, look, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady are best friends now. That doesn't mean they didn't want to beat each other's brains out, but it's different. It's competition, and nobody knows everything. You can always pick things up and then tips and whatnot. So
absolutely,
it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting dynamic.
Yeah. This is a thought that I've had, and I'm trying to think of a way to best form the question, Mike, but do you actively plan, like when you're planning an event like this and when you're working with your team to come up with it, are you actively thinking about how do we advertise and have conversations about how it's a networking opportunity? Because like networking might not necessarily be on the agenda, right? Like it's not like you're like, okay, from noon to 1 p.m. today, you're going to be networking. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's an ancillary benefit to this cool event that you guys do, is like, hey, we're going to have speakers. We're going to have hands-on training. You're going to get ICRC credits. Like you're going to get all these cool things. And then at the end of the day, you can go network too, right? Like it's probably not a great question to ask, but I was just curious if you, your team are like actively like, yeah, like how do we facilitate more networking? Is that something you think about?
That's a great question and a great point, actually. No, I think that it's something that I think too much. If I could speak for all of Expo people, is assumed. I mean, they kind of assume it. Yeah. And they're not overtly saying it in our marketing, which is, and probably we're guilty as well. I mean, we just, of course, they know they're going to network and but no, maybe we need to lay it out a little bit harder. Well, I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
What you said.
Well, and I don't know if you necessarily need to like carve out time or talk about it. I'm not suggesting that, but I think it's something that you could maybe, mention, because I like it just happens naturally. And so maybe that's why you don't necessarily need to like, market for it or whatever. It's not like you need to, run a Facebook ad about the experience and be like, hey, this is you're the best networking event of the year, but it happens at a lot of these events, and it happens at your event because I know it does, and I think that's a cool thing about these events. Like Katie's mentioned, like you've mentioned, that like naturally you're just going to get to talk to some cool people,
right? Whether
it's at lunch or at dinner or on the trade show floor, or you're going to sit next to somebody cool while you're listening to a keynote. Like it's going to happen. And, you don't necessarily charge for that, right? That's not what somebody's ticket to get in is going to say on it. It's like, this is for one networking conversation, but like
one conversation.
Yeah. Like that, but it happens. And it's a cool benefit that I think, it's often down the list that a lot of people don't think about, So
and you're so right. And it's almost like you two work for a marketing company. You know, that was such a good idea. Really. That was like, I'm red faced literally right now. Cause you're right. We can do better. Everybody does, not just me.
Yeah.
We all do.
You know, it's funny. Katie and I we stare at computers all day long. We talk about software and manipulating Google ads.
We're really just dorks is what we are.
We're
okay.
nerds. We are nerds.
We're
But at
nerds.
the core of any marketing strategy or anything, it's people. And all of our conversations and our strategies and our communication with clients, it's about people. How do we get more people to see your business? How do we get your team to upsell these phone calls that are coming in, right? Like, it's at the end of the day, like,
How
it's
do you
all
connect with an audience?
yeah. How do you connect with your audience? And it's all about people. And I think, and your event is no different, right? Like, it's about people and all these keynotes and speakers and conversations and training. It's all awesome. But at the end of the day, it's about people. And I think, I don't know. That's just something that I thought of as we were talking here, that, like, man, the networking piece shouldn't be forgot.
You could say, Hayden, it's about the experience.
It's about the
Well, yeah,
experience.
we use those jokes
That's
a
the
lot.
tagline.
Believe
It's
me.
about the experience.
Well, one thing I'll say, what Hayden said though, first though, it was, I've started, and we talked a little bit offhand. I started an experience-based podcast myself. I'm trying to interview all the speakers and leaders.
Yeah.
To a man and woman, I ask every time, so why'd you get in the industry? Restoration or cleaning. And then every single one of them said, I wanted to help people. That really struck me. This is a good industry. If that's your why, you're going to kill it. If that's what you want to do it. And I think it makes us all proud to be involved in it. As far as the experience name, I think that I always say he didn't name it that by chance. I mean, he wants us to be a big experience and fun, and it is. And we're going to do our best to continue that.
Well, and to your point, you guys do so much cool, like, hands-on stuff, especially in the spring, that like, it really is an experience. You're not just going and walking around and be like, oh, that's a cool piece of equipment, or, like, sitting in a conference room listening to somebody speak and, oh, that was a cool speaker. Like, it really is like an experience. You get to do some hands-on stuff, which is really awesome. So
yeah, it's a unique show. And both of these events are unique. We're setting up, I was hoping to reveal the location of the spring 2025 event, but we don't have it yet. So sorry.
Oh, dang it. I was hoping we had some breaking news.
I will post it. I don't know. I will say this, and I can say this, the people have spoken, and we will be, I really shouldn't say this, but we will absolutely be back in the Sunshine State next year for sure. And nothing against Chattanooga, which is wonderful, or Cincinnati, my old other home state. But everybody wants to come back to Florida, so we're to figure it out. So hopefully the next month we'll know. Maybe if I know soon enough, I'll post it in the comments under this very video for the first thing.
I was thinking you were going to say Hawaii 2025.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
I used to work for 8 years, this magazine called Snips, which dealt with the HVAC industry and the duct work.
Yeah.
It was another industry where you think, that can't seem that exciting, and then you wind up really getting into it. Anyway, our biggest association, every 3 years, they had their show in Maui. And man, you see people clamoring to go. I need to go. My clients, I should go to that.
Yeah. I really need to make it out there.
And it's fun. It was great.
There's a speaker out there I really got to listen to, and they're doing some cool training.
Luckily, every exhibitor could have been an advertiser for me, so I really did have a legitimate reason to be there.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well,
no, not next year for us. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, Florida. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. That'll be awesome. Wherever you guys decide to do, it'll be great.
The Success Elevated podcast is brought to you by SOS Navigator. SOS Navigator is an on-demand training platform geared towards marketing, personal development, and business growth. We understand that as a business owner in the service industry, you wear a million hats. Let SOS Navigator be a simple and cost-effective way for you to continue to grow your business. Click the link in the show notes below and use code SOS Podcast to get 10% off your next on-demand training course.
Anything, I guess, we'll kind of close maybe with just kind of I know you've mentioned kind of throughout a lot of the new things that are going on this year, but anything else you want to make sure you mention, anything new or that's going to be different than maybe past years that you want to make sure we talk about?
Well, the big news is the Shaw tours. There's only 75 seats on that, and we've got about a third of them sold right now. We just went for sale about a week ago, so they're going to go quick.
Yeah.
Also, the first
Remind me the cost on that, Mike. If somebody wants to-
$199, it'd be $199. That's in addition to your signing up for the event too. So sign up for the event, then you get to do that. And again, you'll be driven around all day on a bus, 3 different plants, lunch, all that good stuff, and we'll be back. We'll have a party at night too when you get back. So it's a good one. Most of the changes or new things have to do with the speakers, have to do with that committee I mentioned, I referenced earlier, that we have a bunch of leaders wanting to join in. And also, I want to backtrack to the beginning of this. And I'm talking about people like Jeff Jones and people, and it's just not that they just decided to take an event off. They'll probably see him in Las Vegas or somewhere. We're just trying to get more voices, not necessarily changing them, So anyway, but we're going to remain true to our core of hands-on and fun and family and all that good stuff. So we'll be there for this.
Awesome, Mike. Well, thank you again for coming on and chatting all things the experience. Katie's talked about it multiple times. It's one of her favorite events that she gets to go to. And it's like we've mentioned multiple times here, it's all of the things we've talked about. It's the speakers, it's the hands-on experience, it's the trade show, but it's the people. And I think anything, and I say this a lot. I volunteer kind of on behalf of Spot On Solutions and our sister company. I volunteer as part of our local Chamber of Commerce. And I say this at every chamber event that I go to, and I think it's applicable here, is that you'll get out of it what you put into it. And if you go into the experience with a plan, with some team members that will get value out of it, with the mindset that you're going to talk to people and meet some cool people and listen to cool speakers, you will get a lot out of an event like this. If you go just to hang out in Chattanooga, that's all you're going to get out of it. You're going to go walk around Chattanooga and eat some food. Okay, fine. Well, that's all you're going to get. But if you go with a game plan, with some strategy of how you're going to have a good time for this event and get some things out of it, you'll have an awesome event. And I think that's what's most important. So
thanks, Aiden. I think I agree. I couldn't agree. And we wrestled with that question too. Do we advertise how cool Chattanooga is? And there is. Right. There's a lot of fun things to do there. Really, it wasn't a joke. It's fun. Or just stick back to the meat and potatoes of why people are coming to this. Really, it's going to be, they want to come to the beach in Florida, and I understand that, and it'll draw people next year. But at the end of the day, this is what they're doing. They want to network, as Katie and I discussed earlier, and meet new people and learn things. That's the whole point of this.
Yep. Vacations
are fun too, and we all had our boondoggles in our life, but this is a business trip, as these expos are, that you can also have fun at.
Love it. Yeah. Mike, we're gonna wrap up with asking the 3 questions we ask all of our guests. Again, we really, really appreciate you coming on today and talking all things the experience. But first question, book or podcast that you've read recently or that you're reading or listening to right now that you've just really enjoyed?
I hate to mention COVID twice in this episode because I'm trying to be happy. But after that, I really started on podcasts and books. I started going away from maybe the how-tos and the self-helps and business and more just comedy and fun and light. I've been the last 4 years, I've been having a lot of laughs. And the book I'm rereading right now is Storyteller by Dave Grohl, who is the leader of the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
And he used to be in Nirvana.
Yep.
I can tell a joke now that you mentioned that. People accuse me of being a baby boomer. I'm like, no, I'm an old Gen Xer. I saw Nirvana. How dare you? Don't ever call me. I'm a Gen Xer. Anyway, but
that's awesome.
He's so funny. The story that sticks out in that book. It's just, this is a good COVID story. He was bored. He's a hyper dude. He can't not do things, right? Kind of like Lisa Lavender of rock. And I'm gonna tell her I said that too. She'll like that. And he started writing stories. That's at Nirvana. I did this. And about a week later, I have another 7-page story about some concert. And somebody said to me, "You should write a book." He goes, "I don't have time for a book." He goes, "No, you just kind of accidentally did it in the last 2 months. You wrote about 200 pages of these stories." He says, "I did, didn't I?" So I put them together for this book. They were at a concert one time, and in his words, I burn off about 5 million calories in the concert, and I ran off stage and I went back there and I was starving. And I saw a bucket of KFC and a bottle of champagne. So I was like, all right, well, that's what I'm gonna have to eat the chicken, eat the champagne. And he looked, he goes, "Oh man, this is delicious. I didn't even know this existed." So now after every show, they have KFC and champagne. And we've had that a few times too. And it is good.
What a great tradition. That's funny.
Not bad. Not bad. A lot of fun stories like that. If you want a good laugh and you like rock, that's a great book.
Oh yeah, I could listen. I've heard him tell a lot of stories, both like on podcasts and in interviews, and I could listen to him tell stories about the Nirvana days and early Foo Fighters. He's a cool guy. I like Dave a lot.
Yeah.
Second question. And
Yep.
this could be different than what you talked about last time, or it could be, the same thing, because I think there's something that speaks to like having like a set pattern in your life. But how do you relax at the end of a long day, Mike? How do you, especially as you're getting prepped for this huge event that you're planning with all of your team, how do you recharge the emotional, mental batteries at the end of a long day?
About 5 years ago, I turned my wife on to blues music. And then we all, and most people, a lot of people don't realize until they know that the Rolling Stones was a blues band and stuff. They think that's these guys in South Louisiana,
Right.
But and since then she's really into it. I was really shocked how much she loves the blues. So anyway, it was fast forward to now. We organically started after work. Let's say 5:30, 5 o'clock. We cut out, in time. We'll drink a bottle of wine and listen to some blues, and that's it. And then I feel everything, all the bad stuff that happened during work is gone. It's nice. And that's what I do to unwind at night. Not one bottle, as my wife reminds me. One.
You don't push it. We stick
You
to
lose.
the one.
Well, we do, but we don't. We try not to. But that's when it's not so relaxing after that. But so.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Again, one of our favorite people that we've had on the podcast has talked about this. Justin Sifford with Wylander. He mentioned the importance of having white space in your life. And at least I hope I'm crediting that correctly to him. Hopefully he might send
I think you've credited it to him a couple times. So even now, if he didn't say it, he officially gets
the credit. But the importance of like, hey, like the end of the day, I'm going to shut my brain off and listen to some music and drink a bottle of wine with my wife, like something like that, just to like, I'm not going to think about work. I'm not going to think about anything else. I'm not even going to like think about like the sporting event I went to. Like I'm literally just going to sit and just relax. And I think something like that is like, it's missed, and it's super important in workforce today. So
yeah, it's very, most of us, you're in an office, I know, but most of us work remotely, or a lot of us, you can't turn off. You got to have a lot of discipline to turn off, and you can go on doing work till 10 o'clock at night if you let it. But so just clicking off and turning your computer and is nice. That goes a long way for me.
Last question, Mike. Again, really appreciate you coming on today. If you could rewind to the beginning of your career, if you could, whether it's your career with R&R or with BNP, however, whatever direction you want to head with this, but if you could rewind to the beginning of your career and tell younger Mike one thing, what would that one thing be?
It'd be enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride. I think that I started in advertising in 1997, and I always get a big joke when I was selling to clients. I say, when I started, I was your age, young man. No, when I started in advertising, we people used to call me up and say, Mike, great news, we have a website. That was breaking news in 97, right? We have a website. Cool. So we've seen it go all the way, and we have so much fun. And work, any job you have can be difficult. It can be a pain in the dupa, but you know what? There's always those good days. And I tell people, like our new editor or new salespeople, you know what? When you get out and you get these perks, do it. Enjoy it. If there's a concert, I went to Denver, Colorado one time, and this band I wanted to see was at Red Rocks. You know what? I'm going. I went one time. I was driving through Denver, and REM was playing at Red Rocks, and who I loved back then. And I was looking, I go, oh, no, there's a business trip. I got to see these clients, and so I didn't go. And then the REM broke up the next year, and I'm like, man, I'm never doing that again. We're going to enjoy the ride and take care of all these things. And I think that's so much we're so driven to success, and which is important. You got to remember to have some fun too. That was pretty intense for a long time, and I wish I could just come back and enjoy it and have more laughs like I'm doing now. This job has been a lot of fun, and talking to you two has been a lot of fun too. Honestly, it really.
Well, it's been fun for us, Mike, and we seriously appreciate it, and I think that's awesome advice. Enjoy the ride.
That was a great answer. That was a great.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
You are my first podcast. You're my first love.
Oh, well, we appreciate it.
A lot's happened in the last 12 months.
I was going to say, you've done a lot of podcasts, so that's saying something.
It's been a million. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's awesome.
Keep up the good work. You're doing great. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on today. We appreciate it. And I'm sure we will have you on again in the future to talk maybe all things experience or whatever other cool projects you're working on. So thanks again, Mike.
Thanks, Hayden. And thank you, Katie.
This has been Success Elevated, making you a little bit better one show at a time. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe on YouTube or any other major podcast platform to listen to more episodes. We are proudly brought to you by Spot On Solutions. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you grow your business, please check us out at spotonsolutions.com.